You're good. Oh, we're good? Oh, sorry. I don't know why I was hounding Guy about that.
It's good pillow.
You look like you're in the control center.
You did, yeah. When I was talking with you, I thought you were pulling something up, so, all right. Nope, you're all good.
They don't let me do technology.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You're welcome.
If you feel left out, I'll hold the phone.
Yeah, I sent him a message.
Okay.
There's public comment, but still shoot me a message. Well, I would like to welcome everybody to the City of Idaho Springs work session for October 13th, 2025. We have 4 items, and we're going to start off with Clark Creek's School District Superintendent, Wesley Paxton. Wes, please come on up. Hey, it's good to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Sure. Appreciate the opportunity to meet you all.
Hi there.
Hi there. How's it going?
You know, it is related, and I'll get into that when we talk about budget proposal, but Interstate extended a really generous offer to let basically the kids have the money. Because they've got like 60 some spaces up there at the school. And of course, that's a private deal. City doesn't have anything to do with it. But whatever they wanted to charge for parking, all of the proceeds would go to all the net proceeds would go to the school.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I figured, just because summers, kids are out and the lot's largely empty, and even on weekends because of Compass Day, there's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday thing. So anyways, it's up to them, but I just thought that was a super offer. And Wes never, it just seems like you guys are always doing a lot of things over there. What's the latest and greatest?
Wow, that's a great question. So school year's off to a great start. And lots going on as far as this time of the year. Just making sure that we get our October count tallied up. That was our chance to capture all the students who are enrolled in our school and seeing what our enrollment numbers are. Right now, just getting into the classrooms. That's what I'm doing right now, is visiting classes and making observations and so forth. As far as projects, we've got things going on. We still have some little bit of bond money left. So fixing the roof at the King Murphy Elementary School, fixing the roof at Clear Creek Middle School and High School, getting ready to install the playground over King Murphy. Of course, we have a beautiful facility, so thank you to the voters who helped us fund the Carlson remodel. It's a great, if you have a chance to, it's beautiful inside. It's a great learning environment for our kids and our staff to work in. So that's really where we are right now.
I'd like to turn it over to questions for council, but I think probably one question on all of our minds, because it's really been plaguing the community, is the lagging school enrollment numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just wondering, do you have an update for us, or is it too soon?
Too soon.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to get those numbers. There's a lot of things that go into play. When you have the October 1st is the count day, but there's a window before and after that date that we capture students. So we have students who.
Is it soon up? It's almost up, isn't it?
It's almost, we're getting to the closure of it. It kind of runs almost to the end of October in some circumstances when you have kids who would transfer schools during that window, or a student who was at school but then was sick the week of the count. So we're trying to make sure we have all the documentation for that. I will tell you that we're still seeing a decline in enrollment over time. Our number of our kindergarten students going into our schools right now compared to the students graduating, there's a difference.
Well, before I turn it over for questions, I just, because this is a get to know you, many of you may have not met Wes, but if we could just go around the room and introduce yourself. I'll start with Kate.
Hi, Wes. My name is Kate Collier. I was an enrollment secretary for our charter school in Evergreen for 9 years, and so I'm
Rocky Mountain
familiar.
Academy.
It's a very stressful time for you,
Yeah.
for sure. What is your prognosis for like how many kiddos do you think we will have, just rough?
Well, you know,
I also work for the library, so we wanna try to draw some kids back
Right,
to the library, which
yeah.
might.
I don't have those numbers, I'm sorry, I didn't come prepared for those.
No, it's
numbers,
okay,
but
it's fine,
great
I know it's not done
presentation.
yet.
But I will be presenting those to the Board of Education here in the coming weeks, let them know the official count, and then I can share that with you also. But you know, demographically, our demographics are changing up here. We have a lot of retired folks who live in the community. And folks have either chosen to move here or they've raised their families and still live here. So that kind of, there's a unique aspect on our enrollment numbers, but we're doing some things that are coming up. I'm looking forward to sharing with you, as we go forward with some programming we're gonna do that will hopefully draw students to our high school that will increase our enrollment.
Hi, well, it's nice to see you
Good to
again.
see you
Hi,
too.
Janine.
Yes.
Yeah, we've met through some things with CASA and Rotary among
Yeah.
other things. Always interested in transient chronic
Yeah,
absenteeism.
yeah.
Do you have any updated data on that or?
Actually, was having a conversation, so we're monitoring that, and we're starting at that point where we start letting parents know that we have students who are out of school frequently. And so working with the principals, to make sure we send those communications early enough so the parents are aware of the truancy issues, and what repercussions or consequences that come up if they continue to have students out of school frequently. But we're trying to counsel them. It's not really about the consequences, it's more about how to make sure they're aware and the importance of having kids in school, because a day missed is a learning missed. And so we want to make sure that every day counts and those parents are aware of that. So these are always areas that we continue to work on. And you do have families who choose to take time with their kids, and we understand, but we also make sure that we want to make sure they're in school.
I know you know Andy, Dylan, have you had an opportunity to meet
We
with?
just chatted a little bit before the
Oh,
meeting.
okay, good.
As I mentioned, I'm the city planner, so.
Very good.
He's actually bringing a student to us hopefully next semester, so he's helping. focus our enrollment.
Oh, yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
That's right. They had in the past, as well. And, Guy?
Guy
you had a
Patterson,
chance?
Patterson, Assistant City Administrator.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Chairman Jones, nice to meet you. Welcome to the fun.
Thank you.
It's a cool district, so.
Yeah.
Obviously you're excited about it, so.
Sure.
No questions though.
All right.
That was good to know.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Any questions?
No.
All right, well,
I have one more.
yeah,
I mean, so I'm curious, because we have the charter school in Georgetown that doesn't have the same curriculum as the other three schools. What's that?
Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm just curious, would you, I mean, has the school board ever considered changing the curriculum? There are other ones that might be more alluring to people, especially from Evergreen. I mean, that's your competition essentially.
You're talking about it at Georgetown?
I'm just talking in general,
In
like,
general.
like having the whole district have the same curriculum. I think there is some confusion amongst
Right.
parents at times about what the differences are.
So both King Murphy and Carlson are on the same curriculum, and it's also very similar. The math is very similar to what's used in Evergreen at the elementary schools. And the ELA curriculum that's used for reading and writing at Carlson King Murphy is the same thing that's used at Wilmot. So there's some consistency. Also, it's used at West Jeff Elementary School. So there's some common connections there. So we are kind of really similar curricular resources we're using at the Evergreen schools and we're using in our Clear Creek schools. Georgetown is using the expeditionary learning EL curriculum in way two.
They're not using core knowledge.
They're not using core knowledge. Yeah. So they're doing EL there at the Georgetown, but it's not, I don't think they're using the full curriculum, and they use a different math. They think they use everyday math there, which is also the math I believe is used at Parmalee Elementary School, which is a GT school.
Yeah.
So it's very similar there.
But don't you think that's difficult for them, the two different styles of learning to transition into the same middle school, high school?
From King Murphy and from
Georgetown?
well,
Murphy,
so
Carlson.
Georgetown's a charter school. So
But I
they-
know the difference,
so
but
they have
it's
a-
still within our district, so, I mean, the kids are still in our community.
Yeah, so they have their own board that oversees the resources they use, and I think that they're seeing great success. Those students are getting performance. They're a green school, so it shows that it's working for them in the community, and So I continue to work with them, but to say they have to have something different, I would have to have. a
I would actually go
conversation.
the other way. I would say that why wouldn't we,
Oh, adopt what they're doing.
right, if they're having success, it sounds like the,
So it's
Good path
Carlson, yeah,
forward.
so Carlson and King Murphy are both green schools also. We're very sure that all the three elementary schools are green schools. And, King Murphy is one of the highest performing schools in the state. So it's doing really well there.
and I'm gonna tell, just FYI,
Sure.
totally different demographic.
Yeah.
And we're talking about evergreen kids essentially with different parental home, their home situations are completely different
Sure.
than in the towns of Clear Creek County. So, yeah. I mean, I know the kids that are going to King Murphy. I was their competition when it was enrollment. And so those are very hands-on parents and we don't really have that luxury. Not every one of our parents has that luxury. So I was hoping that we would get more cohesive in our school board rather than have a very small district that has a standout school, even though it's a charter school and they can do whatever they want. But yeah.
It's the same with Rocky Mountain Academy. Rocky Mountain Academy, you chooses their curricular resources, which
For now,
are
right.
different, right, which are different than the Bergen,
Right.
Wilmot, or Evergreen Middle School.
But they also worked within the Jeffco school district to make sure that those kids transitioned into EMS and EHS successfully. Our teachers were very good at doing that.
Well, any further questions for Wes?
Well, the point that she's bringing up, does that seem like a problem when they transition from two different curriculums like that from the Georgetown Charter? And
I don't know if the transition is curricular related. I would say that there is a big difference, whether it's in this school district or other school districts, the transition between elementary school and middle school. There are a lot of differences in that you go from typically one core content teacher who teaches all your subjects. You have, all the core subjects taught by one teacher at the elementary level. Then you go to having multiple teachers at the middle school. You go from the teacher report card that's given every quarter or semester to the Infinite Campus where all that information is collected through that. And so students have to start getting accustomed to that type of accountability and structure. And the culture or the development of a young mind in the middle school is much different than you see at the elementary level or you see at the high school level. There's a lot of changes happening with that student. So thinking about, and this is what we're really working on, is how do you provide those students to have voice in the learning, also have leadership in their learning so that they have some ownership. Because a lot of times students want to know why. Why are they doing this? Making connections, but what's the relevancy of what I'm learning? And so really trying to help those students with that age appropriate development.
Andy, you had one?
Have you had a chance to consider what impact the new rental housing units might have up there by the rec center? We have 119 units that are being constructed there that are market rate, but I think there is the thought that it might appeal to younger people who may have children or may not. But any thoughts on that? Do you guys do any projections of what that might look like for the school, or is that too early to tell?
I think
And
it's
they're not
kind of,
market rate, right? And either affordable now with the help with the state.
I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I guess that's true. Okay.
Yeah, a little more affordable.
A little more affordable,
but
but
to get the grant or the funding, then they have to have
Yeah.
funnels.
Yeah, I think people locally will still be shocked at how high it is to
Right.
size it otherwise.
Right.
But that's a big deal for our community because we really haven't seen an influx of new
Right.
housing
That's a lot of
for a
housing
long,
there.
long
Yeah,
time. Even though it's
agreed.
rental and it's, it may appeal to a lot of singles as well.
Right.
Young singles. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I had the exact same conversation with my team this morning about what is this going to look like, and I'm like, this would be a great opportunity for us to get together our two organizations and figure out like what's the impact, because I think it is something we need to look at is, how many units are available, what type of folks will move into those units. Hopefully they have children or they're planning to have children, and so that will feed into our school system. And we're also, the question about the staff housing because of the set aside of units for Clear Creek teachers or staff to live in, which is going to be great for them, especially with the cost of living in the mountain communities, helping them attract quality teachers to come to our area and to our work in our school districts. So I think we do need to have that conversation so we can start planning, because I think we will be the ones who help guide that going forward.
I was, gonna ask you if you had any questions for us, but I just also wanted to assure you.
Yeah.
We are, and I know I speak for everybody on council, we have been very committed to getting a pedestrian bridge over I-70.
Wow.
And we have had at least a couple of different letters of support from the school district
Right.
over the years. As we've even tried congressionally directed spending projects for this. And so I want you to know, as of now, we haven't had success, but we do keep trying it.
Right.
It is something that I think, especially for the safety of the kids who walk, it could be a big deal. And even after school
Right.
programs and stuff, you know, so anyways, but did you have any questions for us?
I think the question I have for you is that I know that our high school is looking at bringing some events back to the Idaho Springs corridor to the Minor Street to do like possibly a homecoming parade and things like that. So I hope you guys will be receptive for them to bring some of those activities back here to kind of.
Our director of marketing just gave them a thumbs up.
I've been speaking with everybody already, so
Oh, awesome.
yeah, that's already been moved
Yeah.
back in.
So we're just trying to figure out how we can make more connections to Idaho Springs. It's a great place, history here of connection to the school district. And we want to try to bring that back here. Although we had a phenomenal turnout for the homecoming football game a couple weeks ago, and that was really great. They won the game, which was fantastic too. But we're trying to figure out how to make those connections. And I'm currently working with community partners, so I look forward to that work as we try to bring programming that is relevant to the students' needs as far as elementary school or middle school to help them develop and have those connections between the three elementary schools. One of the things we want to do is make sure that we reconnect with King Murphy, that their connection to this community and the Clear Creek as those students grow up, so that they will choose to enroll at the middle school and the high school as they go to secondary level. Yeah. So.
Well, it sounds good. Anything, Andy?
Just to add on to what the mayor was saying about the Ped Bridge, one of the goals of the city is to make some improvements to Highway 103 from the interchange down to the cemetery there. That's all within city limits, and right now it's very much a state highway, kind of like Colorado Boulevard was before the city took that over and rebuilt it to make it much more pedestrian and community friendly. So we would like to do similar improvements on Highway 103. And the thought would be that we first pursue a planning grant, as the mayor was mentioning, for the Ped Bridge. We gotta get it designed first, but we'd like to do the same for Highway 103. So we might start with some conceptual design. Obviously, we would include the school district in that planning as well. And I think you may know this, but the city has also purchased property up by the cemetery for affordable senior housing.
Oh, wow.
And we have a consultant on board who is helping the city actually get that built, meaning that, you know, finding the funding, maybe finding, even better yet, a partner who might fund it, or a combination. And so that is a goal, is to get that built. So we think that's it doesn't help the school necessarily directly, but we think it adds a sense of community, allows people to stay in the community. So.
Yeah, so I see the importance of having a pedestrian friendly area there, so folks could walk to the downtown. Yeah, makes sense.
Well, Wes, thank you so much for coming and visiting with us.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And yeah, we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Yes.
for having me.
Right.
All right, next up, we're going to have a mobility hub update. Joe, welcome.
Great, thank you. And then George is going to join us, and he has a presentation.
Oh, great.
I think our intent is to just go through this presentation in about 10 to 15 minutes and then open it up for questions.
Sounds good.
So we can share it on one, please. Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
it should be.
great.
There it is.
Great, okay. So basically our presentation has, if you want to go to the next slide, George, it is the status update of where we're at today, the status of the funding. What we've also done and presented to the mayor and staff is scenario and risk planning to present where we are today based on the funding scenarios. And then really talk about potentials for program implementation, really trying to get something built here for the city. So, and then really next steps. So that's the 5 different areas that we'll cover today, and then we will also provide this to the city once we're done. So there's a lot of information here, and we'll try to provide it to you as succinctly as possible. So program status update is we had heard that we were unsuccessful in that build grant in June. And since then, we've been working on a few things. If you recall, the city was awarded the planning grant, and with that planning grant, we reached 15% design for all of the elements of the program, which are the 6 elements that are shown there in the graphic. We've also developed cost estimates as part of that 15% design. We've met with the feds and with CDOT to go over that design. And then we attended to the Minor Street Block Party to receive some feedback. And we've also coordinated with the State Historic Preservation Office and the Historic Review Committee to talk about what happens or what could potentially happen with the garage and the Roberts Brothers buildings to get their sort of early buy-in on some potential impacts. And then lastly, we've also built this risk assessment, which we'll go into in different funding scenarios, and we'll go into that a little bit more. So overall for the schedule, for the status is that we are looking to finish up our preliminary design and move into a 30% design towards the end of this year and into early next year. And then to meet the criteria of the planning grant, we will finish up the advanced design of the 60% into next year. Continue to hold community and stakeholder engagement, community updates, and then at the same time, get through the NEPA clearances that are required for this program. So with that, the number that has been thrown out there quite a bit, and we've refined it as part of 15% design, is about that $37 to $40 billion for the entire program. Most folks here know that we've secured that planning grant for 2.4, and then the 6.3 for CDOT funding for the mobility hub, and then the local match for that. So at least with money that is available for this project is sitting here at around that $12 million, $12 to $13 million. So a little bit more about the program funding. We had asked the feds for $25 million in grants to sort of make up that delta of the entire program. Most agencies, there were 2 rounds of that build grant. The first round, they had a lot of those dollars. And so the second round was much more competitive with a smaller pot of money. So more agencies applied in the second round, which was June, earlier this year. So on average, about 14% of the applicants were awarded. And this is to provide a little bit of background to help inform some of the risks coming up for the next cycle. Is in the previous administration, the program application met, and this program met a lot of the stated goals in that previous, the criteria for the previous administration. And so the program scored really well for the benefit cost analysis. However, in the current administration, they've changed the goals, less of a focus on multimodal and other things. And so the likelihood is that that benefit cost ratio is going to be under 10, or I'm sorry, under 1, which won't score very well, I believe, with the new administration. So our financial and our grants folks believe that the likelihood for success, if the city wanted to go back in January and apply again for the next round of grants, that the probability would be less than 10% of success. So there's a lot of data behind that. We've provided the mayor and the city with some additional information. So that is at least our version of the crystal ball in terms of probability of being successful. So then understanding where the program is today and understanding where the program was, we investigated two different options. So what does it mean if we were to continue to look at going after the full program, which is those 6 elements of the parking lot, the parking structure, the roundabout, and Minor Street itself. And then we went back and said, okay, well, what is the scenario if we look at just the mobility hub and the parking improvements, which is that base scenario where CDOT has come in with some funding for that mobility hub. So really, really big picture for the long timeline schedule, and it gets very elongated because of going after the grant, waiting to hear for the grant. And if you're successful, going through an agreement process with the feds, so on and so forth. So in that scenario of a full program, and if the city was successful, construction wouldn't likely start until 2029. So just wanted to provide super big picture. We've done some detailed estimates and simplified that into this graphic for the schedule. So then, a couple of notable risks is just the longer construction delays. We are cautious about CDOT in terms of maybe their priorities potentially changing over the duration. So there's going to be a new administration or potentially a new executive director coming in. So there's always this risk of this sort of political shift of CDOT with the new executive director, new governor, things like that. So the longer this stretches out, we are cautious about some potential changes there. Again, I know that the city has been talking to residents and businesses about this project for a long time. So just the risk of, sort of losing momentum and losing trust of the community. And then really just escalating costs. We've already seen that. And so that's just another notable risk too, the longer this program stretches out. So then if we looked at the base program, and where we are today, optimistically, we think that we could, if we move forward with some type of base program implementation or some version of it, we could actually get to construction in 2027. So that lets us get through design and NEPA by the end of next year, and then really get it out to the contractors and go to bid and really start breaking ground in 2027. So that's sort of the big picture schedule there, program.
What parking improvements are included in that? The base program?
I'm sorry, Katrina.
Which parking improvements are included in that?
So there's a couple of ones that we'll talk about a little bit. For the base program, that was looking at, in this scenario, the mobility hub and the parking structure. So, and with just those two elements, if we could get funding and other things, but there's a lot of ifs to that, and we'll go into that a little bit more. So I think the big punchline for us as we went through this analysis with city staff and also with the mayor is, for the reasons that we mentioned above, and again, we provided the city staff with a more in-depth review. I think it was like a 18-page memo that we provided this. So this is a very high level summary, but because of these reasons and other reasons, we don't know if it's in the best interest of the city to try to go and pursue more grants for the entire program, for those risks that we talked about. And what does the base program look like? I think there's a new mobility hub. There's additional parking, and we can talk about the different scenarios of parking from the full program of a 3-story structure to a smaller structure to surface parking lot improvements. And then also remaining funds to try to maximize some of the other improvements. So with that, I'll turn it over to Joey to talk a little bit about some of these scenarios a little bit more in depth and what it would look like with just the base program. So these are sort of subsets of the base program.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So to answer your question, we looked at three main options with different sorts of levels of parking. So the first option includes intersection improvements at 13th and Idaho, which you can see on the left there. And then also the mobility hub, the new CDOT mobility hub there just to the east of the intersection, and then a new full parking structure to the east of that. So that's right behind Tommyknockers. So this shows the 4-level structure, and then on the right side, you can see that this gains us about 159 spaces over the current footprint. And the cost below that is $17.4 million. So some considerations that we have for this option is that we understand it's well above the available budget at this stage. We still wanted to show it because we feel like it adds some perspective to the later two options. And then it also shows the most efficient kind of city cost per gained space metric for this option. And then additionally, this option does not preclude the addition of more surface parking areas in the future if that was what the city wanted to pursue. So again, this is the first option, and then the second option that we looked at, super similar here. You still got the same intersection improvements there at 13th and Idaho, and then the same CDOT mobility hub there to the east of that, and then even the same parking structure footprint. So with the exception here being this is no longer a 4-level structure, this is just 2 levels. So you can see again in blue, the net is just 60 here, whereas the last one was about 159. And then also with those reduced levels, you'll see a big reduce in cost. So $12.9 million sitting close to the kind of 12.6 million cap that we've got with the max CDOT funds and the city match. So considerations here, still want to acknowledge that this is still slightly out of the city's current budget. Wanted to present it as still a potential option, but just to note, this does leave a little bit less room for that kind of risk pool of funds. And then some additional considerations here is that this is just a 2-deck structure, so it doesn't have that internal circulation that the 4-deck would. It just has 2 independent levels with no internal ramping. So the top deck, it would be accessed up there by 14th and Idaho, kind of right on the corner of Tommyknockers, and then the bottom would just be accessed off of 15th Street, and they're completely separate. So
George, I just want to point out that in a $17+ million scenario, which was your last one, it was $70,000 per gained space.
correct.
In this current one that's smaller, I think all of us understand economies of scale. This is closer to the city's budget at 12.9 because if CDOT comes through, we have 12.6. So it's in the ballpark. But the cost per gained space is now 110.
Yep.
And you probably have one other scenario that you're gonna share with us too. But I just want to make sure council sees that.
Yeah, great point, Mr. Mayor. Just the most efficient structure is the biggest structure. So as we continue to make it smaller, it just gets a little bit less efficient from a city cost per gained space perspective. So great point. And then last consideration for this one is that if we were to build the just 2-deck structure that's shown here, it would preclude the option to build the 4-deck structure later on. So even if more money came around and there was a desire to build a 4-deck structure, there would be no possibility to just kind of tack on the additional 2 floors because there's no circulation in here. So those are the first two.
That going from 84 to 144 or 2-deck? 84 existing to.
Yeah, correct. So that's
So it's only a net gain of 60 spaces.
exactly, yeah. And that, to be clear, the 84 is all the parking spaces directly off the back of Tommyknockers. It's really this entire area, so all around Roberts Brothers building in the 1400 block. So not on the other side of 15, but just in that 1400 block, all in there. And then that leads me to the final option, like Mr. Mayor was teasing at. So this again is similar to the other two. We've still got the same intersection improvements, same mobility hub, and then you'll start to see just a bunch of surface parking improvements here. So first thing on the far west, the existing surface lot, that's the current mobility hub. That'll be kind of improved and maximized to get about 15 more spots. And the intersection improvements allow us to kind of spread that out a little bit so we can get some more spots in there. And then directly behind Tommyknockers where the parking structure would go, that lot is maximized. We were able to tweak where that current wall sits, and so we squeezed in about another 25 spots there. And then additionally, the 1500 and 1600 blocks, those surface lots just right out here, those are also reconstructed and maximized for parking. We get another 10 spots there or so. And then additionally with this option is the full Idaho Mall reconstruction plan that we've been presenting to the public and at the block party and all that. So from Tommyknockers to the end of 17th here, full redo, you know, nice finishes, the brick pavers, planters, all of that is all included in this option. And so the considerations with this one would be that this is within the city's current budget. There's even some wiggle room there. And because the footprint of these improvements are so big, that gives us a nice cohesive kind of area improvements across a large area of the downtown. And then additionally, this does not preclude the potential to add a parking structure in the future if the city were to find funding down the line. That is still possible just to build that there in the same lot. And then remaining funds, if the city does not use their full $6.3 million match, well, in this case, with $11.8 million, it wouldn't be a full $6.3 million match, it would be, I guess, 5.9, but those remaining funds could be used potentially elsewhere downtown to improve parking in the Get Gas lot, or maybe the county resources building, wherever it may be. That could be additional funding to be used elsewhere. And then the final condition or consideration for this one is just that it has the lowest net number of gained parking spaces. So because they are just surface improvements, we don't have that kind of vertical structure there. It's just the least efficient from a space perspective. But then to Mr. Mayor's point, still city dollar per gained space is similar to the last one. Still a lot less than the full parking structure, but kind of in the same ballpark. So.
And George, just in case somebody was wondering, maybe even folks just in the general public, they may be curious as to this unusual feature just to the west of the main parking. And that is where the laundromat currently is, this area south of the Tesla charging station. That has an unusual shape for bus rotation, right? And
Yep.
Because if CDOT's putting in 6.3, they've got to get some things for them for the transportation hub. And that kind of leads me to CDOT is really a critical component of buying off on amenities for CDOT, but also in an agreement, since maybe we're not going the full $40 million improvement, but committing to the 6.3 for these features. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out in case folks weren't familiar with that.
Definitely, yeah. Great point. So these are the main three options that we've been looking at for the base program only, and the three options that we've been looking for feedback on. So any questions on these three?
I would just point out the 2.4 million planning that we were awarded. There's no match on that. The city is not spending city dollars on it. You know, even if we were to shelve some of these plans for later, as George is pointing out, maybe we build a parking structure later, even in this last rendition here, that the money that we have spent for the design is still, you know, something that's viable.
So they're picking in six, how much is the state's kicking in 6 point?
Well, 6.3, and Scott, to that question, you know, we have been very serious about having some kind of agreement with them, and we would like to know in the very near future, in the next few months, exactly what can the 6.3 be spent on.
Because we wonder how much is that mobility hub, what is the value of the creation of that? Do we have any kind of estimate on what we think that would cost?
It's in the ballpark of $4 million.
So there's an extra 2 million for other.
George, that 4 million, does that include improvements to the immediately surrounding area related to the mobility hub or just the mobility hub itself?
I think that's kind of what's still up for discussion
Okay.
in some way when we get to the IGA stage with CDOT, how much they're willing to kind of give and take on that. But yeah, I would think that supporting structure for the mobility hub definitely, and yeah, the goal being to maximize that 6.3 million.
So, and then that'll lead us a little bit into the discussion of next steps. I think the critical path now is defining the base program, because when we define the base program, we can set the schedule and write the narrative for the IGA with CDOT. And as soon as we get that IGA, and that IGA takes anywhere from 3 to 4 to 6 months to execute. So we can't leverage any of that $6.3 million until that IGA gets executed. So we can't leverage it for final design or anything else. So that's probably, I think, from the collective city, some feedback that we need so we can start that IGA. We could also begin right-of-way acquisitions. It is our intent to complete the 30 and 60% design of the program as we've committed into that planning grant. And we've been trying to do that as efficiently as possible. We may be able to get it past 60%. And may be able to use even some of that. And we'll have to have the conversations with feds. I doubt if we did more than we committed to with the money that they've given us, that they would push back, but there might even be potential in using the monies that we have right now to try to do at least some type of base program to final design, and then save as much of that CDOT money as possible, because CDOT's money is for both design and construction, but obviously the more we can use the Fed dollars for design, we can leverage more of the CDOT money for construction. So, and then we could also complete, as part of the planning grant, we will complete the full NEPA clearance. So that $6.3 million, to George's point, will all be better defined in the IGA if we can define what the project is. And then we can set the schedule and get that agreement done with CDOT. So I think that's where, once we got through 15% design, found out we were successful with the build grant, and then just understanding the risks that are coming up. I think it was sort of, we're at the point now where there's a little bit of urgency of, what do we do next? And I think that we could just, open it up for conversation or discussion.
Questions?
One thing that I'm not clear on is that mobility hub and how that's gonna be used in the future. Is that, currently we have bus programs, right? And is that just gonna stay the same, or is that gonna be expanded with more use?
I think it's both. My understanding for the use of mobility hub is definitely for CDOT's bus staying for their Pegasus.
Right.
It could also be used for local, so for Puerto Rico County transit system, other transit systems. I also understand that CDOT has an intent to increase frequency of some of their services, so we could probably see higher, more buses coming through in the future. So the intent is, George, remind me how many buses that mobility hub can do up.
So 3 around the island that we showed at one time, and then there's plans to have additional staging kind of on the side of Tommyknockers in the case that 5 buses show up in the same hour. They can kind of stage elsewhere out of the way.
That would be for private charter buses, that if something brought a group into town, or would that be for that type of use?
I guess, yeah, whatever, depending on how many buses are there, it could be Pegasus, it could be the roundabout bus route.
We're not sure, we'll have to have a conversation because the CDOT's DTR, Department of Transit and Rail, I don't know if their other mobility hubs allow private charters. So I think that'll be part of the continued conversation with CDOT. I think there's going to be two potential IGAs with CDOT. One is how the city and what the $6.3 million is gonna be used for, and then ultimately there will have to be an IGA for long-term maintenance and use for this mobility hub. So to not delay the initial IGA any longer, my suggestion is that we wait for the maintenance and all of that stuff down the road.
I guess I'm just wondering too, is there any projections on it, whether or not that would bring any more people to Idaho Springs for sales tax, and all of them? Or it's pretty much the same.
I don't know, like if you could come more frequently on the bus from Denver, like maybe you would be able to make a day trip more easily and then not be so dependent on a bus that's doesn't have great frequency. I'm just guessing, but
Well, since bus thing first started, it's gone. I don't have the data or anything,
Numbers have
but it's
grown.
like tripled percent for. Like the Pegasus I was looking at, which really just runs between us and Denver and Avon, has doubled in ridership since it started in 2021, I think it was. So on the subject of mobility hubs, we're one of like 10 in the state that they really want to prioritize. And most of them are on I-25, but
And as people get familiar with the marketability of it, I mean, we have events in town, there might be some people that might just hop on the bus, right?
I do think it's
Because this is gonna be a much better in and out of town.
I think it's a miss or a underutilized opportunity to get non-vehicle tourism to Idaho Springs, because if we can market, and that goes into Sadie a little bit, if we can market, you actually can make it up here, spend a full day, go rafting, ride the gondola,
Not worry about.
and go back, and it's $10 round trip, which is what it would be for me to go out there and back on bus day.
It's definitely something worth considering from, the return on investment, being able to market that as a specific campaign and have that as an option. Again, when we're looking at alternatives to our biggest pain points, which parking is our number one negative consumer feedback is parking. And so if we can have a direct solution to market for, such as talking about, you can easily get to us from Union Station or the Federal Center via these direct route buses, there's a lot of return on investment for that. And that's an easily trackable data source as well. It can easily geofence that.
I don't know if we have a lot of data on it now.
No, I know now there's no real data. I mean, I could talk to Colton potentially about if we can geofence kind of where the busting Pegasus drop off now is and see if I can track where they go. However, there's gonna be a lot of like crossover because of how many people, like the Loveland bus is there. And like a bunch of other buses hit that one spot right now. Whereas if the mobility hub, that will be a really easy area to geofence. Because the only transit in that area will be, I mean, from my understanding as well, I don't think that will allow private transport into that area. The only transport will be those routes.
The goal is to expand it. One thing I was just thinking of, and this would require coordination with CDOT, is right now snow staying doesn't stop here. Sometimes it does, but it's not an official stop. And with, we have some lodging in town. It would be easy if we had a stop to convince people maybe to stay here instead of paying $400 a night at Vail. And take the snow staying from Idaho Springs. That's maybe another opportunity if we have the mobility hub that right now I doubt they're really interested in discussing.
It's also another opportunity Loveland is willing to create a consumer shuttle from Idaho Springs to Loveland. In addition, when this is happening. So they're very interested in if we can provide enough peak bodies they're willing also to say, hey, get a ride, stay up here and take public transport to Loveland.
All right, additional questions?
not a question. I just think the surface parking makes sense just because it doesn't preclude us from building one in the future. We have the funds now. And we also, like, those numbers aren't including the parking that we're gonna have at, the building we just demoed and stuff, so there's more spots available than this would bring, so.
I agree with that a little bit too, but the cost of, so if it's 4 million for the mobility hub, but there's still 7 million that we're still spending. That's quite a bit of improvements. But I'd like to see what we're doing with that kind of money, but is that something, if you did a surface or a structure after you did the surface parking, would it like negate some of those improvements that you just spent that $7 million on? Or?
I mean, there would have to be some amount of reconstruction, no matter what, to a certain extent, but no, I think that we would intentionally design, this design to not preclude as best we can.
Yeah.
Mayor, off the top of your head, or, you guys, if considering how much spaces we're adding at Get Gas, what would be the net gain if we're just doing something?
You mean get gassed?
Yeah, in addition to
What's
the
this?
48, how many spaces?
Actually, HDR has a overlay of that at 49 spaces.
For Get Gas?
Yeah, George, you may have that. I think you had sent that to Andy.
So that's 100,
Yeah, so
plus any
40,
future.
yeah, 49 plus
opportunities.
48, so like around
Well,
100.
I think there's a house to be demoed. It was John Gardoni's old house. It's holding up about 15. Now, I say holding up because
Well, that,
you wouldn't park all 15 on that house lot. However, because there's a wide turn right there and you can't block the house. Yeah, there you go. That's 49 right there.
So yeah, small disclaimer first is this is just, we don't have any survey here, we don't have any, this was purely based off of aerial and it was a quick take. But yeah, this is 49 spaces shown, where I guess this building's been demoed recently. And then the city owns both of these parcels. Right.
and then can you zoom out for me, George, and show city council, we're talking about this turn right here, close to the mobility hub, what the mayor is speaking of there,
14th.
right there on 14th, where John Bordoni's house is, we're
Yeah,
talking about
and
that.
this would
corner.
just be short term
Oh,
until they
okay.
built the mobility hub with the bus rotation.
Mhm.
It would need that where that land is, but
Yeah,
right now, you can see there's kind of a large swath before you get to the first parking space here,
yeah.
between where the house is.
Mhm.
So it holds up about 15 spaces, I mean, even short term.
Right,
But that's, we're talking 64. If the county opens up the health and wellness center, we're basically at 100 additional spaces
without addressing.
without, any parking structure.
So then if you did that, then we're talking about like 150 net spaces without doing any parking structure improvements.
Well, and to go one step further, we were sharing with West Paxton the very generous offer that Interstate had extended to
Yeah.
the school district. They're not as lucrative as close in, but they are certainly close enough to walk. And during our really busy season, of course, the summer, those kids aren't in school. So I think that's about another 65 spaces. So we can be talking serious numbers when we really need it in the busy summer season. And I think that can solve a lot of our ills budget wise.
And Mayor, I think we've shared this before also, is part of the deal with CDOT for the $63 million is that we are to provide, transit parking. So that cannot be, charged, I guess, for paid parking.
Joe makes a great point. So when you see these numbers, those aren't what we are going to net because we are obligated to have some parking that wouldn't be charged for the mobility hub. And here's part of the rub here. Since we have not entered into an agreement, we don't know what the numbers are right now. So the 6.3 million that is being that's out there from CDOT certainly has some, strings attached, and we would want to dig deeper. I think all of us would have a concern as what all that entails.
How would you govern how those spaces are used? And gotta be some ability on that, right?
Yeah, exactly,
I
Scott.
mean, people are gonna take those spaces and say that they're using the bus.
Yep, I know. Do we have, a designated area that says mobility hub, parking lot?
And then how do they police it?
Right, right.
I don't know.
But I will say we don't have to reinvent the wheel because they do have mobility hubs elsewhere. So we probably want to take a look and see how that's working in other areas.
Isn't there a grade change from Idaho Street down to
Yeah.
that other, so is there?
Yep, there is.
Is there pillars for that mobility hub a little bit on building it so it's at same grade or?
Yeah, so this would be a pretty decent ramp down here, and then off the backside of the mobility hub, this would be some sort of retaining wall here.
Is there space putting parking below that or there's not?
You could maybe, if we extended the wall the whole way, you maybe could fit a couple more spaces. I would be a little bit reluctant because it just kind of messes with the overall security of the lot, but
Yeah, we looked into, George, if you go west a little bit. There is that space over there, but we just don't have good access. And the
That's
grade
too close
change
to an
is
intersection.
too close, so.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, it'd be nice to somehow physically indicate that it's transit parking and not have it mixed with the rest of the city's parking, but. As of right now, we're not seeing a great location for those transit parking spaces.
Yeah, and Joe, this is the minimum size for this bus rotation. Is that correct?
That is correct,
Okay,
yeah.
all right.
Right, George, because it cues what you're not seeing as the buses. It looks really wide because the buses are queuing up right there.
Yeah. Okay, well, good to know. Further questions?
Yeah, can I take a picture of the get gas?
Yeah.
Parking plan, if they came up with?
People are already parking out this weekend.
Oh, I know,
saw
I
that.
actually saw some.
So I guess I have one question. What are you gonna do with the buildings? The old garage and laundromat. I thought originally if we take those over, we have to get them an alternative place to build the buildings.
Well, and Deb is here and she has been nothing but a saint. With delay after delay after excuse after another delay. With this, and it's like we move the goalposts. When, you have different administrations in the White House that what HDR was alluding to may have different values. They may not embrace transit as much, for example, or electrification of vehicles. So yeah, it's made it very, very difficult. And then the city loses any kind of credibility if we say something to Deb that ends up later on being untrue or unaffordable or not manageable because, the grant money, say, for example, is off the table.
Yeah, what is the plan there?
Yeah, did I miss the actual answer?
No, because we still have work to do. For example, as Joe was saying, we can't go spend $1 billion right now because these buildings that Deb owns, CDOT needs those. And if we were to spend $1 billion, that's outside of the agreement, that's on us. That's kind of the way that works. So we gotta hammer something out.
So you're saying it's gonna be negotiated at the time of determination if we go forward?
I think that's a fair statement. And, nobody could blame Deb. She has waited for literally years on this. This is gone. We would have thought that this would have been under construction a long time ago. And as Joe pointed out, costs just keep escalating. Originally, I think the parking structure alone was gonna be like about 8 million. Now it's easily 1.5 times that, maybe even a little more, itself. And, like I said, Deb has been nothing but a saint, through this entire process. I don't think any of us would blame her if she, put it up, for sale, on LoopNet tomorrow morning. But we're grateful, I think, here, at the city just for her working and still trying to get something done. By the way, she also owns the old train depot up 103, which I think would really, be the crown jewel if we can ever get that back, to its approximate, old location. So.
And her patience and understanding.
I know, it's been unbelievable.
And Mayor, if I may add, we understand just this urgency of being able to start having those conversations, so council is aware under, the federal process. In a normal process, you normally cannot have any conversations until the NEPA document is signed, which is not scheduled until next June. However, there is part of it in which if you meet certain criteria, you can begin right away negotiations and conversations prior to the NEPA being completed. So our intent, however, we need to have a program defined so we can have the conversations not only with the feds, but with CDOT. You could actually even start that process without the IGA with CDOT. So our intent is ideally to define the program, start the process of the IGA, get the approvals from the feds to be able to talk right away as soon as possible. So all of that's sort of happening concurrently and really trying to expedite this whole program, or the whole project as quickly as possible. So we don't have to do everything sequentially.
Could I just say one thing? The reason that I stay with this is that this community needs a laundromat. That if I sell tomorrow, it's gonna go away. And, it's unbelievable the amount of people who rely, I mean, absolutely rely on that, day to day, week to week, month to month. I have mothers with children who are in twice a week, doing their clothes, and at this point, if this laundromat goes away, people would have to go to Denver to wash their underwear. And I just, it makes me cry. The customers, the people that come in there are so respectful. And a lot of the criminals who I've seen arrested in the past few months came and washed their clothes. Everybody needs to wash their clothes. And when those people were in the laundromat, they were kind and respectful before they went out and did all the other stuff. And that's why I'm committed to try to keep hanging in here. Because if I sell, the laundromat goes away.
Yeah, this is beyond a thank you. Any further questions for HDR? All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. All of that was great information for council. Really brought, I think, everybody up to speed to the point we can know now.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before HDR leaves, what I would ask is if council's ready to give some direction on next steps. And the most critical next step is moving forward with an IGA with CDOT to secure the funding, the 6.3 million that's been committed by CDOT for a number of years. But with changing priorities, possible change of administration, as Joe mentioned, election coming up next year, we think it's critical to make sure that 6.3 is still committed to this project, because that 6.3 will mainly be going to the mobility hub, the transit center part of the mobility hub, which is involving depth properties there, west of 14th Avenue and east of 13th. So if council is okay with this approach, really it's now we're shifting gears and proposing a phased approach. Where phase one would be getting the mobility hub built, the transit center built, as described. And then doing the surface parking improvements to maximize the parking that we can find now based on the space that we have without building structures. So I think, if council's ready, we'd like to have direction on that. Can we move forward with this phase one, start on the IGA? Once we've started with the IGA and we have some certainty that that funding is still committed for the mobility hub, then we can start, as Joe mentioned, probably as early as the beginning of next year, we can start talking with the property owner about acquiring those properties. And it's not only acquiring the properties, but isn't there also some funding that's available to actually for the business itself? Am I right about that? What do they call it?
Business relocation money.
Yeah, there's some business relocation money that's part of the acquisition process, but it all has to go through the process.
Yeah.
And be done in certain progression.
And Andy, also, they call this, at this point, we're federalized.
Right, we're federalized. So I think did I miss anything, Joe, or is that really what the ask is tonight from council on direction?
I would say that, I don't know, we threw a lot of information at council, so, probably the biggest urgency is that, as with most folks and with most stakeholders, I feel that there's an urgency to get back to the feds and the CDOT, probably at the latest, early November, to communicate to them, the intent of what the city would like to move forward with. So I think more importantly is, Andy, we talked today about getting that meeting scheduled, but that will be our next check-in point with CDOT and FHWA. So
one other point too, and a question is, if we did the surface parking, if we interrupt parking, we're gonna lose revenue. If we do a structure, I imagine there's gonna be quite a bit of interruption in our parking revenue. Whereas if you did the surface, there's gonna be a lot less. Is that a fair statement?
that is a fair statement.
I mean, is it projections? I guess you could come up with some kind of projections during that, working with the contractor, I guess, but we are gonna lose some revenue during these improvements, right?
Yes, yeah.
But there's gonna be far greater if you did a structure.
Yeah, I would say, and this is just guessing, as we get closer to construction, we could put potentially certain criteria within the documents to at least direct the contractor to, you have to keep this open while you close this, or whatever that may look like. But there will be impact for sure, but much less than a structure. The only other part about the risk of structures is, you all know, is when you start digging, you just never know what you're gonna run into.
Yeah.
That could cause.
Oh, yes, we do.
That could cause a lot in place, and so that's probably my biggest concern for construction and potential escalation of costs during construction, is all the unknowns that happen when we dig.
All right, so, I'm going to pose the question, of these scenarios. I think, Kate is actually touching on something. Does anyone have the stomach for the, additional expense that includes a parking structure? Because I'm saying at that dollar per space, it's, a lofty
A certain amount of risk there, right?
there is. And 3 is, as Kate's wish. Basically, we're getting about $12.6 million done for the 6.3. Again, this hinges on our negotiations with CDOT and if it's acceptable to council. But I kind of wanted to start there because I think it might be the easiest way to get to the bottom line. Scott, your thoughts?
I think it's, without creating a lot of risk financially, I think it's the best option.
Jeremy?
I think 3 is the best option. It's still seems like a lot of money for a parking spot.
does.
It is.
But I would say if we do nothing and wait, and continuously
Oh,
wait,
it's gonna cost us more.
well, they're gonna run us out of town, number one, so there's also that.
Janine, your thoughts?
Yeah. Although I said earlier,
Okay. All right, so, that, should be good for direction. Next big step is discussing with CDOT if, 3 is the best option. Where are they at? Does that change the game, for them? Because, I don't think any of these scenarios are viable without their complete buy-in. And, I would also, go with 3, just because, there isn't that much disruption comparatively. And we have been successful at gaining surface parking, within a pretty reasonable walk. We've got a lot more coming online. So at least in the short term, we will have improved the number that we have by a significant margin. Andy, anything else?
The other thing I might mention on a positive note is that the raised planning grant, of course, does include design and engineering for the much bigger project, which includes improvements to Minor Street.
Oh,
downtown
that's true.
Minor Street.
Yeah.
So the good news is that the money that we're spending for the mobility hub project, the bigger project, that design engineering, a lot of that will still be there. So as we apply for other funding, potential grants, we will be that much farther along.
Yeah. And I would also point out that we talk a lot about parking revenue. We average about $1,600 for every parking space, and that's for the whole year, about $1,600. But the big picture is sales tax. We average about $4,050 of sales tax for every parking space. So as we talk about budget, you know, we're only about 8% off of our sweet spot. And another 100 spaces should wipe that out. Just on sales tax revenue, not even looking at additional $1,600 per space. Because that would have to stay in the parking fund, but I'm talking about $4,050 in sales tax that we really live and die by. So I'm saying 100 spaces could make a huge difference. We currently run about $4.8 million with the spaces that we have. That's going to be improved. Probably none of you could have missed the number of people that we had over the weekend paying on the East End. It didn't seem to deter anybody. At least, I know on Sunday I went down and there was only 4 spaces available all the way down Colorado Boulevard. So I've got some hopes there, and I'm just saying we're not sitting on our hands. We've actively been trying to improve those numbers. And I want to thank HDR for coming out tonight. That was some good scenarios and some budget breakdowns for us to consider, and can't thank you enough.
Thank
for having us.
you.
Thanks, guys.
So, Andy, I've got 18 minutes. There's no way in this world that we are going to be able to tackle budget proposals. We also have planning and historic preservation grants. Any chance of us discussing and having a lengthy budget discussion when you come back from vacation?
Yes, that was the plan anyhow, yes.
Okay, cause I know, I'm glad we got it out there.
Yep.
It's things that council can consider. I would just say it's probably an easy statement that none of us want to cut anything for employees.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. What date's the next discussion I'm gonna be?
We would have it in November, either that second and we might have a special meeting that 3rd Monday of November.
Okay.
Like we did this last time where we just had a night dedicated to budget. I would suggest we might want to think about that maybe on November 17th, because on the tenth, I believe it is, we have the audit presentation from 2024. And that includes an update from our financial consultant as well, tied into the audit. So my thought is, since we are gonna need time to go through this, and we'll have some updated financials by then. And I think my recommendation would be that we have a special work session on the 17th where we try to finalize the budget, and we can talk through it and see really where we stand and what we can do for 26.
Yep, and I think in the meantime, Andy and myself and Guy, I'm sure, we'll be looking into alternatives. Where else can we cut? Because there will have to be some cuts, but we'll try to have some scenarios for folks that we can explore. And if I had additional time, I actually was going to weigh in a little bit, but we won't have time to. Anyways, thank you. The next and last thing is the planning and historic preservation grants. Dylan, I would throw that to you, and I'm gonna apologize to you in advance for being shorter on time, but let me suggest if we go, say, 10 minutes over into the normal session, I think we can all live with that, because we don't have that lengthy of a regular session.
Well, and I don't think I need all that much time. I had initially planned on just getting bumped and talking about the staff.
Wow.
So,
Look how you rate.
so anyway, this is a much smaller dollar amount than what we just talked about with the mobility hub improvements, but it still is sort of some good news, and I wanted to get a little feedback on. The first one I wanted to talk about was this incentive award for expedited reviews that we recently received. As you all recall, in the spring, we had gotten pre-passed a resolution that expedited reviews for affordable housing projects. Then I had to do some kind of a follow-up work after we did that, but now we got all that approved, and so the state is giving us $50,000 to put towards housing. And as is shown in the packet, we are already local planning capacity grant awardees for the senior housing project that's on the south end of exit 240. And so we can basically, by the end of this year, we have to decide how we want to use this money. And so part of this is just an update to say, hey, we have this money now, but part of it was also, the initial thought that Andy and I had talked about is we have several other city-owned parcels around the city. It would certainly be eligible to use this money to expand the senior housing project we have, to then hit all of the other city-owned sites that could have housing, like we had done with that EV studio analysis, which was maybe last year at this point. But if that, and we've talked about, there might be opportunities for some housing near the Edgar mine, and there might be some opportunities on the Riverside on the east side. And we could basically do the same thing with the senior housing. We get it to a point where it's planned out and almost shovel ready with funding. But there could be other ways to use this money, and I'm not sure what they are at this point, but that was the first item, was to say, is there any thoughts on that, or does that initial idea seem like it makes sense? But we have the money, where it's guaranteed, so. So anyway, and we had to do it to comply with state
Just be
requirements.
amending the current agreement that we have.
Right, yeah, and so we really just have to come up with scope to say, hey, we have $25,000 already, what do we do with 1,000 more for that, for planning as housing? And if there's no ideas now, maybe talk about it again before the end of the year, but we only have basically 2.5 months until we have to give them a scope that, so they then give us the money.
Do you have any ideas?
Well, I mean, I do think just expanding it to these other sites, we won't get 50 units on them, but if we could develop plans for townhomes or something smaller, multifamily housing on these other lots in town, that could bring achieve more of the goals towards housing without having a huge impact on neighborhoods, because it might be 100 units instead of 50 units or 119 units. So that seems like an easy way to just add on to the current project we're already working on. I otherwise have talked a little bit with DOLA about other ways we could use it. They're giving me sort of a list of here's other things they funded in the last little bit with this grant program, but I haven't really looked into it in great detail, so. So, I can plan to brainstorm a little bit more to see if there's other potential ways to use the money that might go farther, but I do think as a backup, this would be a usable way to use the funds. So that was the first grant we wanted to talk about. The second is.
Before we move on, any thoughts, Mayor? Thoughts on that? Any direction for staff on that? Time is fairly short to get in our proposal, so that's why we wanted to make sure we got that to you all. And we were just thinking this would be a way of building on the work that was already done with EV Studios on the site that's on Riverside, the site that's up near the Edgar Mine, the other smaller site that's on 8th and Minor. And some of those might be suitable for townhomes, which could be a partnership with Habitat if they're interested. And then the one on Riverside might be more appropriate for multifamily. So if that, and then there's also thought about whether we could get some housing in up at next to the affordable senior housing there at the entrance to the cemetery, maybe some townhomes in there, if that's feasible or not. But we haven't really looked too much into that.
No, exactly.
What a lot of other communities who've been awarded have done is hire consultants to work on basically adding additional staff capacity to keep furthering housing related projects or long-term planning for housing. It sort of feels like to me that we know where housing could be built in town. We don't have that much space, whereas Lakewood, potentially a lot more space. And so if we can get the little bit of spaces we do have ready to be built, then that's more units that can actually be built in town.
So if you determine those are buildable sites, you said we work with Habitat with some of them, but not all of them?
Well, a few of those sites would be more probably suitable, like 8th and Minor for maybe a duplex or a triplex, townhomes.
Those are
Whereas,
small, I think.
you've got the multifamily apartment building there on Riverside, East Riverside, where another smaller multifamily structure would be maybe more appropriate in that area.
So who would you partner with on a developer there?
Well, we work with the current consultant we have for the senior affordable housing project. Our goal there is to either identify a way to get, the goal is to get this built, get the senior facility built, either through identifying funding and or a partner, a development partner. Preferably a development partner, because then we're not having to find the funding. A development partner would maybe put together the funding package or a combination. So we'd like to move forward maybe with these other sites in a similar manner, either with Habitat or find another development partner for that site on
And
the
they'd be
Riverside.
rentals probably, then it would be in.
Likely, I think the townhomes for Habitat would like to be ownership.
Yeah,
That's their
those
model,
definitely.
yeah, but my guess is on Riverside, it's multifamily, probably be rental. We're not talking a lot of units, we're talking.
I think when the EV Studio did their full build out, 12 would be about the maximum, which maybe that then does lend itself to reduce the units further and make them for sale units that are affordable, since that is a different need of the community that the field house apartments and housing wouldn't do. I don't know, other than Habitat, there have not been many for sale developments in town in the last decade or more.
So then the city would deed over the property somehow during the process?
To be determined, yeah, and that's something, of course, we own the property for the affordable senior housing project, we own that property, so that's certainly something we have that we can negotiate. It could be enticing to maybe a developer if the city wanted to work out a deal there.
Yeah, there's different ways that
Yeah.
could be approached, but still could provide the service of having more housing.
Yes. Something, a partnership with the housing authority, which is still getting off the ground, but I don't know if there's any opportunities there. But
Well,
it's just an idea.
DOLA did say that we could link up with regional partners who have also done this to create more funding. Because, yeah, the housing authority got 96,000 through this program to sort of hire it to stand it up. And so Georgetown, I know, has done it. I think they had mentioned they have some plans in Georgetown that they want to do. But the county got on board ahead of the year. It was a project for 100,000, but we got some else and made 150,000, then we can leverage it in a bigger way. I just don't know if any of our partners.
And I think you identify those properties to be buildable, but then the work begins. I think there's a fair amount of work to figure out how you approach those and what you do with them. I mean, that's Dylan's the only person doing that, or if there's gonna be a committee or something that's gonna take some work to get it to the final stages.
Well,
And, sorry,
I say the preliminary plans that we saw, they were very, like, they're gonna have to narrow down and be very precise because they've got parking, you know, guidelines and a certain amount of square footage that they have to get.
Yeah, I do think without a consultant on board, to Scott's point, capacity is difficult to develop. Like, design for several housing projects, other than if we just went to a developer and said, hey, like Habitat and said, we'll give you this land if you
Yeah.
build an affordable.
With
place."
Habitat, I think you could do it a little easier,
I mean,
but
they've been
they
good
have the
partners.
capacity, you can do it.
They've been
Right.
good partners.
Then when you're
Yeah.
gearing,
I mean, it's kind of like a no-brainer.
partnering with someone else, there's gonna be some work involved.
Oh, they're very, I think, very amiable towards different solutions.
Well, you're right. I'll give you an example quickly. They had said that they would do very long-term lease with the city. You know, I'm just throwing it out there, like some countries, you can only do 99-year lease kind of thing, you know, so. They do tie the units up for 30 years, so nobody's profiting on the cherry. If you're like a 60% AMI kind of a person and you go to sell, there's a limit to who you sell it to. There's a little percentage to play with, but essentially you're going to sell to another 60% AMI type of person. So you're limited to how much you could have made per year. So they've done a lot of the work that we consider valuable, like vetting the people and making sure that they, because you have to have enough to make the payment, but not so much that you were going to have a day, you could have just gone to the bank and got a regular loan. You know, so it's interesting because they do accomplish a lot of good in a lot of communities, and they tend to get things built a little cheaper because they do have some donated materials and some donated time. And I only, not that municipalities are lazy, but I'm just saying you don't have to get in there and micromanage. Sometimes you can have a good partner. I would suggest that Habitat's one of them, where it's more of a hands-off partnership for the municipality. And, you know, at the end, you've accomplished your goal of having affordable housing for your people.
Mayor, could I suggest that maybe Dylan put together a draft of this, what we think might be the best option, given that we already have a consultant on board, we have these other properties we've done some work
Andy,
with.
I think that's a great idea. Is everybody all right with that?
Yes.
For now. And Dylan, I want to say, thank you very much for your work on this. This is, exactly what we needed. I'm happy we're moving forward.
Now you have one other item you want to touch on before we close it.
Yes, this is a grant we haven't applied for yet, but Sadie and I have been working on it together, and it's through the State Historic Fund for Certified Local Governments. As you may know, this year is or 2026 is the 150th anniversary of Colorado State, 250th anniversary of the United States country, 26. And so they are offering $25,000 no match grants to do basically projects that celebrate these anniversaries. And since Colorado Springs has such a rich history, it seems obvious to celebrate this anniversary because we have had a history that well predates 150 years. So the idea we've come up with as the initial plan would be to build off some work that the Historical Society has done in the past for sort of brochures, for walking tours, and create this sort of multimedia digital tour that can use the Visit Idaho Springs website and sort of build out this very interactive tour that takes you to all of the very substantial sites, but also sites that have done quite a lot of work on preservation over the last few years, like Project Support Building, like Powder House that no one goes to currently, but we just spent money on, like City Hall, like Jackson Monument, and create this tour that can offer.
Sure, the library would
The
like to
library.
be, would like to be
Library.
involved, but
Yeah.
the inside doesn't look like we're
Yeah,
caring for it very much at the time.
but upside maybe to that is we can show the process that goes into caring for such an important building. I think the library is a great partner, the rec district is a great partner because they've done tours and continue to do tours like in the cemetery and downtown. And what it can also do, I think, is be another thing for visitors, because visitors, maybe don't interact with anything besides the historic district. They don't really know much about it. We have plaques, but we don't really connect it very well. I was talking with Sites and Facilities Board today, and they thought it'd be really interesting to use it as part of the tours connecting downtown to the east end via the Colorado and Southern Rail Line. And then because we don't have any signage about that right now, you can create this digital, kind of journey that if you get people to go from the visitor center, for example, to downtown, it traces the history of railroad.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
So the grant is due at the end of this month, on 27th. Like I said, there's no match. We put together a draft of the application already. And we're working with Kent, Slaymaker and Ross, who did all the website design and branding, to integrate all of that. So wanted feedback on whether that seems like a reasonable thing for us to continue working.
Jeremy?
Thank you very much, so.
All right, Janine? Kate?
Yeah, are you working with anybody at the Historical Society?
Yeah, Dylan and I are both linking in the
Thousands of
historical
pictures in
society
there
now.
that I'm sure.
Yeah, so named like partners, so Dylan and I, Historic Sites and Facilities, the Visitor Center, the Historical Society. We plan on looping in the library once and if the grant is approved, and then other nonprofit partners such as Project Sport and the Rec District.
Yeah, I mean, we had got tons of history, book history as well.
Exactly.
Those that are archived in both branches too.
Lisa?
This one's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I thought so
It
too.
really is.
Yeah, right, exactly. All right, and it's unanimous, and you had to be a certified local government for this. Thank goodness, thanks to some work that was done several years ago, we are. And yeah, I think that this would be a great addition to the city and really help accomplish a lot of goals that we have for being a historic area.
It's a clear goal of the Sites and Facilities Group is education outreach as well
Yeah.
to our local historic sites, and we have not historically done a great job of promoting some of them. So it's a good opportunity, and I just submitted the CLG paperwork last week, so we should be in good standing still.
All right.
Well, and it's like a perfect alignment with what the state's goals are too. So it seems like we would, based off of the attention that we already have from History Colorado and Colorado State Preservation, that it seems like it would be a pretty high likelihood of us being awarded this.
Absolutely.
Dylan, since this is a CLG grant, will this be going to HBRC for the review or had?
It has not.
Okay.
I was planning next Tuesday on the 21st.
Okay.
At our work session. Not irregular, or anything on the agenda.
So HBRC meets next Tuesday.
Yes.
Where you'll
That was my plan in additions.
All right. Well, you have a unanimous yes from us, so thank you very much. Everybody, please take 5.
driver, you get out of here, that's not. I'll do that, all right?
Yeah.
Is anybody doing?
Where are you going?
This is.
Oh, yeah, I started recruiting. I was like, hey.
That's not gonna work.
She's like, I think you are.
Ready for me, slide back. Our, I haven't seen Bill. We're not good to go yet.
Take one and pass around.
Oh, man, yeah, no, that's about right. Yeah.
Is that the agenda for tonight, guys? Mayor Dillon said we're good to go.
Okay, all right. Hello, I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 13th, 2025 regular city council meeting for the city of Idaho Springs. We'll call to order at 7:11. And I'd like to start off with a roll call, please.
Janine Mariani.
Here.
Kate Collier.
Here.
Lisa Manifold. Here. Scott Pennell.
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Here.
Mayor Chuck Leonard.
Here, all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
This chair.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We have an agenda before us tonight. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda for Monday, October 13th, 2025.
Motion from Janine, thank you. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second from Lisa. Any discussion of the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Does anyone tonight feel they have a conflict of interest?
I have one for the car wash on the approval of bills.
Thank you, Scott. Duly noted. With that, I am probably, when we do get to bills, I will ask for a motion for the bills excluding the car wash and then for one for the car wash. But thank you for that. We have minutes before us tonight, and do I have a motion?
We motion to approve the minutes of September 22nd, 2025.
Thank you, Jeremy. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second from Janine. And any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have bills tonight. Could I have a motion on the bills excluding the car wash?
Make a motion to approve the bills through October 13th, 2025 with the exclusion of the car wash.
Thank you, Jeremy. And do I have a second?
A second.
A second from Kate. Any discussion of those bills? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Janine Mariani. Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. And could I have a motion for approval of the car wash bills?
I'll move that we approve the car wash bills.
Thank you, Lisa. And do I have a second?
I'll second
Second from Jeremy. And any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. Hey, next up, was kind of exciting. We're full up on officers. We were going to be doing a swearing in of Officer Brandon Robinson. Is that still the case?
Mayor, we're gonna delay that 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
It's just a scheduling issue, so.
All right.
Hope you're here the next time.
All right, well, we'll look forward to seeing him and having the swearing in session.
Thank you.
Next up is public comment. And Carrie from 15th Avenue is here to talk with us. And I want you to know, this is the first any of us have heard of this. And we don't have back and forth in public comment, so please don't be offended. But it's our time to listen to what you have to say. And if you're able, please come to the podium, and if you're not, we understand.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
My official name is Karen Tierney. I go by Karen a lot, so. And can you state your address for the record? It's 417 15th Avenue. Will you raise your right hand? Do you swear the testimony you're gonna give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think the last time I was here, I had a broken leg, and now I have a broken foot. So I'm at Idaho Springs is a good place for me. Anyway, so there is a package that you all have, and I will go through the packet in just a minute, but I am requesting a vacation of property that's right next to my house, which is a hill, and it's just full of rocks, lots of weeds and dead trees. So my goal is to protect this area. I want to continue to maintain all of it. It's not just the property with all the weeds, but it's also the area in front of my house that I maintain. I put gardens in, I maintain the walkway, I clear out all the weeds, snow removal, trim all the bushes. I've been doing this for about, I've been going now for 6 years. And my goal is to make sure to honor all the right of ways and the easements, especially city access to all of the utilities. And I also want to improve the usability of the area, and I'll tell you a little bit in a second about that. So the background is, as far as I can tell, the property has been used by the occupants of the house for the last 17 years. That's the last year that we, could find any photos or whatever. So I wanted to let you know there's also no access to this property. It's bound by on 3 sides, and the only way to get there is on a no-through street. So, and the only parking is in front of the house. And for me, there's no other place to park because the road does not allow any parking that goes up to the house. I think there's no impact to the public, and it's fairly isolated. Right now, it's high in weeds and dead trees. And I would like to say I belong to the Columbine Club, and we just saw a presentation on native grasses. I'm going up to Fort Collins to pick up seeds. And what I'd like to do is see, this organization did a lot of the work up at Mount Blue Sky to repair all the damage. Probably a lot of you were aware of this. They did an incredible job. So I'm going to be working with them and doing my own gardens with these grasses and pollinators and hopefully birds and all of that will come back to this area that are native and will be a witness for everybody. Yeah, that was a wildlands restoration project. So my conclusion to my comments about this is I'm just looking for a solution that we can move this forward and find a workable plan that will make sense, to the city and where I'm currently living. I do have to chop down all the weeds that end up on my property. It cost me, let's see, there are 5 bags, so it's $5 a bag to take up to the city. So it does cost me money. I guess I don't have time to tell you about the packet, but I did put on the overview what you're looking. So I hope that answers any questions you have. And the letter, which is, I guess, the official application, really describes much more detail the request.
And I want to thank you. We do have all of that in our packets. Obviously, we can't make a decision tonight, but I can promise you we will be discussing this in upcoming meetings. Thank you for giving me your time tonight.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment tonight, either online or I would assume we don't have any in person. Okay.
No one online.
All right. Thank you for checking, Dylan. And do we have our finance officer? I would assume we don't. Okay. Next up, we will go with resolutions, and we're going to start off with number 30. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution number 30, series 2025, resolution supporting the Choose application for non-motorized field grant funding from Carl Parks and Wildlife CPW for Genie Canyon Mountain Park.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
Oh, thank you.
Second from Scott. And, any discussion?
Does this one generally have a match? Is this a specific grant or just generally?
This was already approved through an action item, but the state actually wants a formal resolution. So this is just formalizing in a resolution what was previously approved through an action item.
Okay.
There is a match, yes, to answer your question as well.
And, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Mayor Tim, Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. We were going to have an ordinance first reading and, that is for number 13. That is canceled. And we don't have any ordinance second readings tonight. The city attorney, our regular, city attorney is not with us tonight. City administrator, Andy, thank you. And, I wanted to ask you if you had anything further to share with us tonight.
Nothing further, thank you.
All right, and you're gonna be on vacation,
Yes.
starting tomorrow night.
Yes.
All right, very good. Hope you have a good trip.
Thank you.
And, Guy, no request for action. I just wanted to check in and see if you had anything further.
I will not be going on vacation.
All right.
So.
Thank you very much. Dylan, again, thank you for, all of your work, in preparing, the grant application just for one example. Actually, there were two tonight. And, wanted to see if you had anything further to share with us.
Nothing else for me.
All right, well, thank you. And, Wonder, no request for action, but, nothing further.
Nothing else.
We've got, it seemed like there was a date or two coming up on, an item. I can't remember what it was. Maybe I'll remember by the time I get to, the mayor's, end there. It seems like there was some community thing.
There's some Elks Clubs events happening.
There are.
There's multiple. There's Hell at the Moon on the 25th. There's Halloween Night on the 31st.
Thank
There's a
you.
craft fair on the 15th. Pumpkin Smash is the 2nd. Is it the
Uh,
2nd?
November 2nd.
November 2nd.
Yep, and it's gonna be at the ball fields.
Yes.
All right, and we've been doing that for years. City has been a, kind of a smaller sponsor of that. And I want to thank you for saving my bacon because I knew there were dates I wanted to share with folks, and anybody watching at home, but you have a very good memory.
Thank you.
Chief, you're next up and, another excellent report. Wanted to see if you had anything further to share.
Nothing further, Mayor.
All right, thank you. And, Ed, thank you, for your report as well. And you do have an action item for, paving. And do I have a motion?
I'll move,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Scott.
I'll move to approve paving and striping from AFAS patch at 1856 Colorado Boulevard for $38,825 from line item number 59-70-7901.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second from Kate. And any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Scott Pennell.
Yes.
Jim Clark.
Yes.
Lisa Manifold.
Yes.
Kate Collier.
Yes.
Janine Mariani.
Yes.
Mayor Tim, Jeremy Jones. Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. And Ed, before we move on, did you have anything further to share with us tonight?
Well, I think that's about it. We did have a PLC failure at the wastewater plant. But that'll be up for maybe next week's expensive bill.
No. And ballparkish, what are you thinking there? Ed?
Well, I got one, quote was 30. I think it was 30,000. That would include one and then a backup as well, so then I don't have to be out there till 10:30 at night. Reprogramming stuff.
Yeah. All right, and I just want to point out that you and your staff went, I don't know, like about 2 weeks without having a day off because we had a water issue.
The water main.
The school, was shut down for a couple of days and, you know, it's too bad it couldn't have held out. If it had held out another 10 months or something, we might have been in better shape. I'm just guessing because we will be into that water main replacement on 103 for this first problematic 1.1 miles.
Right, well, we are looking into whether or not this bottom section is actually even included in the Highway 103 section. It's
Oh, boy.
it's a spur off
I got you.
from that.
All right, but, anyways, very commendable. You guys just working like dogs for days and, I checked in a couple times and it seemed like things were very well at hand and, you know, I think a lot of folks, as long as the water comes on and the toilet's flush, they're cool and they don't have any idea what sometimes it takes to make that happen.
Right.
And you guys really went the extra mile.
I know I haven't done all of the water breaks. But I've been on quite a few of them, even when I was at the water plant. This particular one has been the hardest one I've ever been in.
Wow.
So 8.5 feet deep.
Yeah.
Probably 18 inches off of a 4-inch gas main.
You're just down in cold mud.
12 inches, nearly 12 inches of concrete, driveway on top of it. Everything took too long and everything you had to do was, extra care because of, you know, the location and then the hole kept filling up with water too.
Yeah.
It's right next to the creek. So, you know, it filled up 6 feet of water. You know, in just a couple hours if we didn't have the pump.
This is in that problematic 1 mile area.
Yeah, well, so it starts as like the school parking lot where we started the Highway 103 project. But the line that broke is off of that bottom vault from where it heads off to Soda Hill tank and then spurs off to the school and under the bridge and the Forest Service.
So your staff, is this water, wastewater, or public works, or both did not have a day off for 2 weeks?
It was mostly public works. But Matt helped out a little bit from water, wastewater. But it's mostly public works.
Essentially 2 weeks with no days off.
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
Well, some of them had Saturday. I was called on Saturday by 911. So there's a pushing up the street, water leak pushing up the
Oh
street.
my gosh.
And it was pushing up the street. And I was able to turn it off. And then called for locates and then waited out there. Willie came out also and we located water sewer lines while everyone else located whatever else was out there, gas.
Well, let's help you. I did not want you to get through your report without sharing to council and anyone who may be watching online. That was quite a feat and thank you very, very much.
You're welcome. Last week was a difficult week. Every day was Monday. Every one of them.
All right, and before I take us into executive session, I want to just check in, see, does anybody have anything further to share?
I do.
Oh,
So the fact that Ed and his department took 2 weeks where they didn't work. I know we're not discussing the budget until later, but I think that needs to be taken into account when we're looking at how we're dealing with our staff and the budget. Full stop. Because the way that our budget looks now, it doesn't take into account that we have people that were willing to be in here for 2 weeks straight. And that's not appropriate for us.
I agree. And it used to be a lot worse.
Lisa.
You're welcome. I appreciate being able to run my water. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ed.
All right, anything further? All right, then I will be adjourning our regular session at the conclusion of the executive session. And I move that the city council hold an executive session under CRS 24-6-402, parentheses 4, parentheses B, to confer with the city's water attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice and information concerning the city's water interest, and to adjourn the regular meeting